G'day and welcome back to the Boardroom chat on the road in my backyard. This time we're going to talk to Deegs about his quiver and how he sees it making his life better.
Yeah, well, we really didn't get far from the last conversation, but we thought maybe we'll crack another beer and have a bit of a yarn about what I've got. I'll have that and close that. There we are. It's my job done for the day.
Yep.
Thought why not have a bit of a chat about mine. Bit of a different setup. Obviously, I am 196 centimetres and 100 kilos, so my board range is a bit bigger and
different to what I ride.
Yeah, I'm happily an intermediate advancing surfer, and I don't oversell my skills of surfing. But come check out what I've got in my quiver. Hey.
So where does your quiver start, Deegs? Tell me.
Quiver starts probably one that I surfed down south with you. So I'm from Tassie. I've been here for a couple of years working for Payney, which I've been loving. And when I first got here, I was surfing maybe a couple of boards that were really quite short, and being quite a long guy, and Middleton being somewhere we surf quite a bit, I found it very frustrating when I first got here. And the first thing I've added, which you were a big fan of and you've had for a while, is one of the Hayden Shapes Crypto twin fins. So reasonably versatile board, easy paddling, user friendly, a lot of fun.
And what sort of wave range?
Size? They say 1 to 6. I've put it in 4 or 5 foot out at Torquay when I went over there a couple of years ago with a rip curl trip. It was reasonably solid, that's for sure. So I've loved the board. I found it really user friendly. I've taken it back to Tassie a couple of times. Where we live is quite a novelty, like river break, but it's quite a good sized wave, but you need a lot of wind
to generate the wave.
Yeah, it needs to be
and
quite
that EPS epoxy handles those windy conditions.
It
right?
does. Notoriously, they are a little corky. I've never had too much of an issue. I definitely found that the durability factor was handy because I found myself on the rocks a couple of times. You can see a few marks on the bottom.
Yeah,
of that.
I noticed that.
I'll give you a hard time. But
not just me, obviously.
So that one is just, and you'll see that as it's been a bit of a thing with my quiver that we talk about having boards in different categories or range.
Absolutely.
I found that I very much had a lot sitting in that all-rounder category, very similar, like 6'4", 6'2", 6'0s at 45 litres.
Yep.
I get down to about maybe 42 litres at 100 kilos, and that's kind of where I tap out as an okay paddler.
Yeah.
And that's okay with me. The one I've loved that is a little bit more on the performance end for me is the Sub-Zero from JS.
Yep, so 5-box setup.
Yeah, love it. I haven't been great. I'm not a huge fan of quads. It's just not something that I've clicked with on the boards I've had. This thing I've really enjoyed. I've run those H4s from FCS.
Yep.
And yeah, absolutely loved it. So the thing you'll see a bit of a common theme. Like, I'm a big fan of the JS boards.
Are you trying to keep the carbon industry in business?
I do really enjoy the carbon stuff. Being a big guy, I'm throwing a lot of weight around too.
Yeah, true. Yeah. There's that durability advantage.
Adding an extra durability factor is something I really enjoy. Don't get me wrong, when we get these really hot days through December and Jan, keeping wax on them can be a little challenging.
Yep.
But I find that the durability factor on these boards outweighs any of the other cons, that's for sure.
And how do you find these two boards differ? Because they can go into sort of similar conditions.
I find this for me is a little bit shorter. I think that's 6'2", 44 litres. Yep.
So it's a bit more nimble?
A little bit more nimble, and for me, I just need to be mindful if I'm heavy on my back foot, being a shorter board, that I'll fall out of waves or just really lose a lot of speed on takeoff, whether that's at 6'6", so I've got a little bit more length to work with.
So you run out of board on the shorter ones?
Yeah. So it was a learning curve for me, but I've had a really good time surfing this.
Lucky you can buy lots of surfboards and test them and demo them.
Everyone says it must be nice working in a surf shop. The big thing I've taken on since working for you is I enjoy buying and putting my own spin and working out what I like, and given, I guess, the same reason we're doing this is honest reviews on what we're loving and what's working and what's not.
And I'm the same. It might seem we ride a lot of boards. People go, what do you ride? And you go, I all these boards. But it's really helpful to help people make those decisions.
Yeah.
We don't love every board that we've ever owned, that's for sure. And if we don't think if it's lacking a certain area or it's a particular style of board that doesn't suit the conditions we might have where we live, we sort of might phase it out of the range and try and bring the range of boards in that complement each other, and we almost run a quiver in the shop, a quiver of boards for people to choose from, as much as we own a quiver of boards. So again, asking the customer the right questions of where they're missing something in their range helps us fill in those gaps.
Yeah, and how they're finding things. For me, early on, I'm surfing 6.0, 40 litres maybe, and I was really struggling with not enough glide, especially down south.
Shorter board.
Yeah. If your weights and parsons and the wave's got a little bit more push, it's not as much of an issue, but I wasn't spending as much time there. So again, learning curves over the journey. The big one for me, and this is actually my second one, I've got 2 of these, is the Big Baron from JS. You've got one. I actually convinced you on that one.
Yes,
too.
yes. You've converted me on several boards.
Yeah, I've got there a few times, which I always think, if I can get you on boards and you're enjoying it, it's always a good sign that there is something going on and not just me making it up. But this is only touched down for me, a fortnight ago in the carbon. Looks wicked. But again, that drawn out rail, easy paddling, you want to have a good time and not sacrifice what you're doing down south. This thing paddles in easy.
So moderate rocker line.
Yeah.
Not dead flat like a grovel board.
It's not, and I don't think any of my boards are carrying, they're not super, super flat. Like that's probably the flattest rocker line in the lot of it.
Yep.
But again, versatility in a lot of my stuff. And that's where I found that I was crossing over a little bit. So I had to clean a couple of things out. I'm drawing a little bit more to a couple, the Hypto Crypto 20's done a few trips with me and I really enjoy that. So you keep stuff that you've had a bit more time on or you've found really good in, in all conditions. Doggo looks like he's loving it. When I got a Big Baron and loved it and said, I actually toyed with the idea of touching base with JS and going, hey, can we make this board in a 5-box?
Yep.
And then I think you went away, might have been that trip to the Banyaks, and I've been umming and ahhing for 6 weeks about the L Baron that they'd released. And I finally pulled the trigger while you were away, and this has been a huge winner for me. And
I think that translates into our sales too, that if you found it to be successful and you're advancing intermediate surfer, a lot of our customers are in a similar position. So it's probably quite easy for us to recommend a board like this, knowing it sort of works pretty nice in 2 to 3, but it also handles 4 to 5 pretty good.
Yeah. And this, we've had a really good run on this. Feedback wise, a lot of guys enjoying the fact that it doesn't feel like a boaty mid length. And again, I really love JS's rails, and don't get me wrong, like I've had a few Channel Islands boards that I really enjoy their rails as well, but the shape maybe not have been there as much. But for me, JS rails have been a big winner. So this comes in PE traditionally, but this is actually a PU version. So you can get them made in Australia.
But most of our stockies in the shop are PE, so polyurethane blank epoxy resin.
Yep.
You can get Aussie-made PU as well.
You can. Cost you a little bit more. I've used this a lot. Since this has been my go-to board, probably out of the range. A lot of waves. We got out west, and that was probably a good trial ground to different fins, different conditions, different wave types, and that was a big
you surfed out some good reef breaks over there, huh?
Yeah. We pushed that in a couple of things I was definitely uncomfortable with. Again, you can put a lot of boards under people, but it's limited at your ability and so on and so forth. So for me, being able to paddle into a couple of those bigger days, and a lot more bowly waves than probably I've spent a lot of time.
So the old saying, there's no point in having a step-up board if you're not going to step up.
No, I don't need that. This covers
that does the job,
Yeah. And then you kind of come into probably my last board at the moment, which has been a little warm in the board bag on the way here by the look of it. The zero gravity. So that whole zero, the gravity range has been refined and paid a lot of attention to from JS. So
it's a performance board, but it's like a little bit beefed up, isn't it?
Yeah, I went the plus dims in it to get the foam, so that's 6.45 litres. It's not a huge amount of rocker in it. We have found a few guys going to Indo or surfing local really enjoy the shape. So for me, I went, this is when they first released the Carbo Tune construction, and I went, okay, cool. Maybe I'll try this out because I didn't have anything in my range. I think I just got rid of my Raging Bull, which was a little undergunned volume-wise.
Yeah, but it comes with a similar range of waves.
Yeah, and they crossed over a little bit. Like the Raging Bull had a lot that I probably wasn't using it for. So for me, this definitely paddles in well, and I'm not really restricted on my ability and performance. So
So again, in Carbo Tune for durability.
Yeah, and maybe if I'm going to push in bigger stuff, I probably need to look at a PU, but that's where I've got the L Baron in a PU construction, so I've got a little bit more weight there if I need it. most of my stuff all comes traditionally with a 644 glass job on it because I'm a big dude.
Yeah.
So,
and again, take your time when you're ordering with us. Organise yourself well ahead. You can't snap your fingers and expect a board to be there. So if you want a 6.4 and you want futures or FCS, whatever, allow 6 weeks production, a week travel to get to South Australia, and you'll get the board that you want. That's why we want our customers to be stoked with what they're getting from us. So that's your range of boards. That sort of covers you from 2 to 6 foot.
Yeah, and I don't have a dedicated grovel, or the big one at the back is the fed fish that I'm looking forward to. That's turning up this week. The feedback has been unreal, so I'm looking forward to, we talk about not clicking fingers together and having boards pop out of thin air. I'm looking forward to my red with the yellow rails turning up in the next week or so.
So your fed fish will sort of sit in this area down here, and that'll get you covered from,
Went up a little bit in literage, and just want to get a heap of waves down south or the mid with it, and not have to worry. I think the feedback on it that it's holding in some better stuff is really exciting for me. So
when they release a board, they always go, it works great in 2 to 6. Yeah, well, it's not that good in 2 and it's not that good in 6, but
do that with everything.
There's a range in the middle the board's going to work. It will be interesting to see how this goes in bigger, better waves. But most people, by the time they're getting big, better waves, they're starting to ride traditional performance and step-up boards. There's only one Mikey February on the planet last I saw.
Yeah, and I guarantee I don't surf like that bloke. So, but all the feedback and even how you've been finding that board, I cannot wait. One of the boys in the store, Jono, and Ray's been on it a bit too.
Yep,
the feedback from those boys,
customers.
Yeah, and it's good to have that because normally customers are pretty honest if they're not liking something.
So that's your range. Thanks, and thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed our backyard board chats about quivers and how you can
differentiate.
Make your own range work for you. Not everyone can buy these many boards. We get it, but we ride a lot of these boards, and it helps us help you. And we get really stoked on getting people on boards and getting the feedback and seeing smiles on their faces and seeing them getting to the best waves of their life or progressing, quite dramatically in a short space of time.
It's all about having fun at the end of the day.
And Extreme Board Riders have been here for 30 years this year.
Taking over.
We're stoked to be able to offer this service to people, and stoked to have you on board as a passionate surfer, as my store manager. So thanks for the lowdown on the boards, and we'll see you guys, where?
In the water.
You.